Hello and welcome to Football Daily, where today we're scouring Europe for the transfers we hate this summer, to bring you our worst 11 moves of the window. Let us know who was unlucky to miss the list in the comments below. Goalkeeper, Pepe Reina. At 39, you'd hardly expect Pepe Reina to be matching the quality of his days at Liverpool, but the Spaniard who spent the last 2 years with Lazio has hit the jackpot in his twilight years, moving back to his homeland with Villarreal, Champions League semi-finalists in 21-22, where he's intended to give number 1 Geronimo Rulli some competition. Unfortunately, we just don't see it, as Reina was the worst goalkeeper in Serie A last term. In 15 starts for the Achille, the former Bayern stopper allowed a whopping 29 goals, saving just half of the shots on target he faced. In fact, the quality of his work between the sticks was so bad that XG indicates he cost his side roughly 5 goals more than an average keeper. And if Lazio had conceded at the same rate all year, they'd have ended up leaking 73 in league play, more than all but one team in Italy, Salernitana. It's hard to see what Reina will bring that an academy player wouldn't, but at least a modern great can turn 40 whilst playing European football in this season's Conference League. Knowing Unai Emery, he'll probably end the year with silverware. Right back, Nahuel Molina. In a Spanish top flight where money is scarce, Atletico Madrid's £18 million capture of Nahuel Molina stood out this summer, coming in at the same price they paid for Rodri back in 2018. But this one makes far less sense, with the Argentinian profiling as the exact sort of player Simeone would hate. The only stats which popped for Molina last season were in key passes and expected goals, as he grabbed 9 contributions in Serie A. But Atleti fullbacks are rarely allowed in the box, and unlike someone like Kieran Trippier, Molina doesn't produce much from deep, ranking dead average for progressive passing, and actually in the bottom 8% of fullbacks for long ball success. He's also in the bottom third of wide defenders for tackling dribblers, winning headers, and regaining possession too. And at 24, he's not a prospect, but theoretically the finished article, suggesting Simeone must see something we don't. As good as the coach is, his transfer record is rough, and to us this is another miss. Centreback, Diego Carlos. Given that Diego Carlos is out indefinitely with an Achilles rupture, this may feel like kicking a man when he's down. But we hated the Brazilian signing long before he was ruled out. The defender spent the last 3 years with Sevilla, winning the Europa League and missing just 12 league matches. But at 29, he hardly seems like a forward-thinking signing, especially with his £26 million price tag putting him 4th on Villa's record transfer list. It also didn't seem like a good fit. What would attract you to Carlos is his expansive distribution and intelligent defending in a reserve system, but Villa play a much more open style than Sevilla, while their centre-backs are focused on short passing, generally playing under 6 long balls a game to Carlos's 13. And while aerial win rate isn't everything, Gerrard needed a presence on high balls, with Mings and Konsa both rating below average. But Carlos was only okay in Spain, suggesting he's unlikely to command the box in a taller and more physical division. The injury is the final straw, eliminating the last year of Carlos's 20s, and meaning that by the time he plays competitive minutes for the club, he'll be out of his prime, as well as recovering his fitness and adjusting to a new side. A disaster all round. Centre-back, Nayef Aguerd. We've already covered Nayef Aguerd in our biggest gamble scout report, and since then the situation has only got worse, with the Moroccan out for months with an ankle issue, forcing West Ham back into the market for Thilo Kehrer. But Aguerd costs £32 million, the same as Koulibaly or Sven Botman, and we can't work out what makes him worth that fee. After all, the 26-year-old only has 89 appearances in Europe's top 5 leagues, the same as Arsenal's William Saliba. And while he got on the ball a lot for Rennes last year, he didn't do much with it, failing to split the lines or pass into the final third more than his teammates. He also doesn't win the ball a lot, and his tackling can be hit or miss, with just 39% of his challenges seeing him walk away with possession, a figure that could get worse when he's up against Salah and Haaland every week. Brought in to prevent another injury crisis like the one which hampered the end of last season, Aguerd is instead added to David Moyes' woes, and for the 6th biggest fee in club history. Ouch. Left back, Ryan Fredericks. It feels cruel to attack Bournemouth too much. After all, they lost 9-0 and sacked their coach before the season was a month old. But when you make it to the Premier League, you should at least appear to care about whether you stay in the division. And their transfer inactivity and underwhelming acquisitions like Ryan Fredericks are hardly going to fill the fans with hope. Since 2020, the Englishman has played just over 800 league minutes, but when he has got on the pitch he hasn't added much. An unreliable passer, he's never broken 80% accuracy, he puts up around 3 tackles and interceptions a game, which is middling, he's completed just 22 dribbles in 4 years with an awful 49% success, and to make matters worse he arrived at the Cherries injured, making his 2-year deal and reported £38,000 a week wages, already a drain on the team's meagre resources. Whilst Nottingham Forest have got serious, and Fulham at least have taken some gambles, Bournemouth went into the season resigned to the drop. At least they won't lose 9-0 in the Championship. Midfield, Paul Pogba. While the media is undeniably full of critics gagging to seize on any problem Paul Pogba faces, it's hard to deny that the midfielder brings drama wherever he goes. We're just 6 weeks into the Frenchman's return to Juventus, and he's already facing claims that he asked a witch doctor to curse national teammate Kylian Mbappe, and feuding online with his brother Matthias after the former Crew striker reportedly played a role in a plot to extort €13 million from Pogba. And he hasn't even appeared in a Juve shirt yet. Picking up a meniscus injury within days of his relocation to Turin, Pogba will only have around a month and a half to play himself back into fitness and ensure his place in France's World Cup squad. While in his absence, Juve have struggled for creativity, averaging just 12.3 shots a game, ranking 13th in Serie A, all while paying the midfielder an alleged £200,000 a week. He should be able to help with that. He averaged a better ratio of goal contributions to minutes played than Sadio Mane over the last 3 seasons. But the salary and the circus are only worthwhile if he can help power Juve back into title contention, and with a strong crop of challengers already pulling away, we have our doubts. Midfield, Georginio, Wijnaldum. Consider this spot a shared one in our 11, as Jose Mourinho has wasted no time in stocking Roma's midfield with veterans this summer, bringing in old favourite Nemanja Matic and ex-Liverpool star Georginio Wijnaldum to an engine room already humming along nicely, with Lorenzo Pellegrini and Braga Cristante last term. As we've noted previously, Matic has been sliding for a while, now ranking as one of the worst midfield pressers in Europe, but at least he's currently making a few tackles and passing into the final third 7 times a game, while Wijnaldum is out with a tibia fracture and could miss the World Cup. But even if he was fit, we don't get it, with a 31-year-old picking up just 4 goal involvements in 18 PSG appearances last term, barely getting on the ball, creating nothing, and failing to defend, placing in the bottom 12% of midfielders for touches and lowest 1% for tackles and interceptions. Adding experience is one thing, depth is another, but spending big on wages to bring in a cooked veteran who can't get on the field is a disaster from top to bottom. Midfield, Andreas Pereira. Though the signing of Willian is probably more embarrassing, at least for Fulham's existing wingers, the club's purchase of Andreas Pereira has left us scratching our heads. The Brazilian has spent the last 2 years with Flamengo, after disappointing loans at Lazio and Valencia, but somehow impressed the Cottagers enough to move to West London for a fee of £8.5 million, more than Leno, and almost the same as Premier League regulars Neal Maupay and Nick Pope. And while Fulham have won some neutral fans in the early exchanges of the season, Pereira has done little to spark a re-evaluation. At present he produces about 0.25 expected goals a game, the same as Ruben Dias did for City last year, while he also regains possession once every 2 matches, completes just a quarter of the dribbles he attempts, and fouls as often as he passes into the final third. He may yet come good, after all Mitrovic needed a few turns to find his feet in the top flight, but to spend that money on a man who offers no improvement on Tom Kearney is foolish. If Fulham end up narrowly relegated, they could regret their choice. Forward, Antony. For a more detailed look at our issues with Antony, check out our EFD Explained out tomorrow. But suffice to say, the Brazilian's output in the Netherlands doesn't scream 9-figure transfer fee. After all, he's just got 25 goals in an Ajax shirt, or 1 for every £4 million United are paying, with around a third of those coming from outside the area. And the last thing United need is another wayward shooter from range, or someone else who constantly loses the ball. Though Antony did work well out of possession, he also lost it roughly 4 times a match, and his dribbling left a lot to be desired, with close to 2/3 of his take-ons failing in the Champions League, the best indicator of how he transitioned to the Prem. His stats have benefited too from XG over performance and his teammates finishing his key passes at a high rate, and at Old Trafford he'll experience a level of pressure he's never felt before, hardly making it the best environment to make mistakes and develop. Put simply, at this price point you don't want any red flags, and Antony has several. And with Ten Hag already facing questions, the player's success could be closely linked to the manager's fate. Forward, Robert Lewandowski. You'll think we're clickbaiting putting one of the best strikers of our lifetime in this 11, but hear us out. Barcelona moved heaven and earth to bring in Lewandowski this summer, paying £40 million, plus £60 million in wages over 4 years, as well as selling a quarter of audiovisual arm Barca Studios to register him, a sequence of huge financial choices made in service of building a squad to compete in the very short term. That means if they don't win something major with the poll, the Blaugrana will have significantly altered the economic future of the club for nothing. And there's no guarantee of success, with European champions Real Madrid adding Tchouaméni and Rudiger themselves. And frankly, they could have settled for second place in Spain while building a new young squad, instead of signing a 33-year-old forward just 6 months after Aubameyang, who himself arrived just 6 months after Memphis Depay. The question isn't whether Lewandowski will score goals, he's already banging them in. The question is whether Barca could afford him, and whether it will make their investment worthwhile. Given the struggles of Ferran Torres, it's hard to trust that the Catalans know what they're doing. Forward, Hwang. Nottingham Forest transfer blitz this summer has been almost impossible to follow, with the club paying fees for a massive 14 players, and while most of it has been strong, one move that deserves some negative attention is the signing of Bordeaux striker Hwang, who arrived for 3.6 million, only to immediately head out on loan to Olympiacos. Under normal circumstances, we'd assume that Forest expect to lose Awoniyi and Emmanuel Dennis if they get relegated, and have brought in Hwang to be their striker if they do return to the Championship, but even that seems a bad plan. Last year he did score 11 goals in Ligue 1, but those came in 32 appearances and from 8 XG, while he put up under 2 shots a game and created, defended and dribbled all at a below league average rates, all numbers unlikely to improve given the fact he's 29. But even worse is the real reason for this transfer, which is that Forest owner is also in charge of Olympiacos, meaning he's using Premier League riches to unfairly strengthen a club in another country. It just goes to show that while the Super League may be dead, greed and dodgy dealings persist across the game. So guys, that was our worst transfers of the summer 11. What did you guys think of it? All credit for this video needs to be given to the editor Mike Atkins and the scriptwriter Patrick Van Straten. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to Football Daily, and I'll catch you next time.